I don't think a lot of people would survive being Jonah Hill. I don't think we could ever understand the mental state that he constantly was. I think it's one of those states where it's easy to just completely lose it. You see, Jonah Hill had a little problem. To Hollywood, he was just a fat, funny guy, the awkward friend. And for him, that was a big problem. You see, back then, nobody ever expected Jonah Hill to become one of the most respected actors of his generation. Nobody expected the Oscar nominations, nobody expected the emotional documentaries, and nobody also expected that one day Jonah Hill would quietly disappear from Hollywood almost entirely. But what is the strangest part of Jonah Hill's story? It's that the more successful he became, the more miserable fame seemed to make him. Because behind the jokes, behind the comedy, behind the weight loss headlines, was somebody who spent years trying to escape a version of himself that the world turned into entertainment. And honestly, the Jonah Hill story might be one of the saddest examples of what Hollywood does to people once the internet decides who you are.
I came up in goofy comedies and this kind of like curly-haired, overweight kid, and everyone had their own opinion on what I should be, how they could speak to me, how they could treat me.
Jonah Hill was born in Los Angeles in 1983, and unlike most actors trying to make it in Hollywood, Jonah actually grew around the entertainment industry. His father worked in music, his family had connections, he wasn't completely disconnected from that world. But even then, Jonah never actually looked like the kind of person that Hollywood turned into a star. He didn't have the superhero body, he didn't have the perfect face, he didn't have the classic leading man image studios love to sell. And because of that, Hollywood immediately placed him into one category: comedy. Not serious acting, not drama, just comedy. And for a while, that worked perfectly. Movies like Superbad, Knocked Up, and 21 Jump Street made Jonah Hill one of the biggest comedy stars in America. People loved him because he felt real, messy, loud, unfiltered. He wasn't polished like most traditional celebrities, and that made him relatable. But there was also something dangerous happening at the same time. The world was laughing with Jonah Hill, but also laughing at him. And there's a big difference between those two things. The internet became obsessed with Jonah Hill's body. Not his acting, not his writing, not his talent, his body. Every few months, new headlines appear. Jonah Hill loses weight. Jonah Hill gains weight again. Jonah Hill's shocking transformation. Imagine living like that. Imagine waking up every single year knowing millions of strangers are monitoring your appearance like a scoreboard. That kind of attention changes people, especially when your entire career started because Hollywood thought you looked funny. And the truth is, Hollywood has a brutal relationship with actors who don't fit the traditional beauty standards. When Jonah was heavier, he became the joke. When he lost weight, people suddenly started treating him differently. That alone teaches you something extremely dark about the entertainment industry. Then something happened that changed Jonah Hill's career forever. He stopped trying to be just funny. Instead of staying comfortable inside comedy, he started chasing serious films, and almost nobody believed it would work. But then came Moneyball with Brad Pitt, and suddenly critics were shocked. Jonah Hill got an Academy Award nomination. The same guy people reduced to comedy punchlines was now standing beside some of the most respected actors in Hollywood. Then came The Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio. And Jonah didn't just survive in that movie, he dominated scenes. That was the moment people finally realized something important. Jonah Hill was never just a comedian, he was genuinely one of the best actors of his generation. But success didn't solve his problems. If anything, it made them worse. Because now the pressure became even bigger. The internet wasn't just watching Jonah Hill anymore, it was analyzing him, judging him, turning his life into constant public discussion. Then social media changed celebrity culture forever. Before social media, actors could disappear privately. Now, celebrities are expected to exist publicly every single day, and Jonah Hill clearly hated that world. You could slowly see him pulling away from it. The interviews became more uncomfortable, the public appearances became less frequent, and eventually, Jonah started talking openly about anxiety, real anxiety, not the fake internet version people throw around casually. Panic attacks, emotional struggles, years of pressure, and suddenly, the funny guy from Superbad started sounding like somebody carrying years of emotional exhaustion. Because maybe comedy was never protecting him, maybe it was hiding him. Then came Stutz, and honestly, that documentary shocked a lot of people because for the first time Jonah Hill stopped performing. No fake celebrity energy, no comedy character, just honesty. The film focused on his therapist, mental health, trauma, self-worth, and emotional pain. But if you really watched closely, Stutz felt more than a documentary. It felt like Jonah Hill trying to understand himself in front of the entire world, and maybe even trying to save himself. That's what made it powerful, because most celebrities spend their entire careers hiding their insecurities. Jonah turned those insecurities into an entire film. But then things became complicated again, because once you become vulnerable publicly, people begin analyzing your personal life too. Leaked text messages, relationship controversies, online debates. Suddenly Jonah Hill became another internet battlefield. Some people defended him, others criticized him heavily, and once again, the internet stopped seeing Jonah Hill as a human being. He became content, opinions, think pieces, algorithms. That's the part of modern fame nobody talks about enough. The internet doesn't just consume celebrities anymore, it emotionally dissects them. Every mistake becomes permanent, every private moment becomes entertainment, and some people simply aren't built to survive that kind of pressure forever. Then Jonah Hill made a decision that surprised Hollywood. He stepped back, not fully retired, but emotionally detached from the celebrity machine. He announced that promoting films and doing constant media appearances had seriously affected his mental health. Think about how crazy that is. The thing that made him famous was also hurting him psychologically. And honestly, you can understand why. Imagine becoming globally recognizable before social media fully exploded, then suddenly entering into an era where millions of strangers can comment on your appearance, relationships, personality, and mental health 24 hours a day. That level of visibility changes people forever. Some celebrities adapt to it, others slowly disappear from it. Jonah Hill chose distance. Here's what makes Jonah Hill's story fascinating. Even after stepping away, people still couldn't stop talking about him, because Jonah Hill represents something bigger than celebrity gossip. He represents insecurity, transformation, self-hatred, reinvention, the fear of being trapped inside a public identity you no longer recognize. A lot of people secretly relate to that feeling, especially in the social media era, because now everybody performs versions of themselves online. Everybody creates characters, everybody edits themselves for acceptance. Jonah Hill just happened to experience that on a global scale. And now in 2026, Jonah Hill feels like a completely different person from the guy audiences first met in Superbad nearly 2 decades ago. Older, calmer, more private, less interested in fame. And maybe that's because he learned something most celebrities learn too late. Being recognized by millions of people does not guarantee peace. Sometimes it destroys it. Sometimes fame gives people money while quietly taking away their identity at the same time. And maybe that's the real tragedy behind Jonah Hill. Not the wage struggles, not the controversies, not the headlines, but the possibility that the entire world fell in love with a version of Jonah Hill, while the real Jonah spent years trying to figure out who he actually was underneath all of it. And honestly, that might be the most human celebrity story Hollywood has produced in years. Honestly, I think this story explains itself. This will be the end of this video. If you watched to the end, you're a real G and I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one.